consumers to be able to pay it and transact electronically. So they created Alipay. And then they have a few other products that are associated with financing and banking. And now they have a social scoring service that they make available. We don't know as much about that, but we know that it's used. And so like they've just been able to take the data from that original e-commerce marketplace and see opportunity with that. And I've experienced that in a much older school way with Overture, which was the first online search marketplace. And what we saw was all these businesses spin up around us, and we just watched it and thought it was cool. We didn't actually try and monetize it or build it ourselves, but it's the exact kind of same thing that happens. And so just going back to, and I'm going to get into some examples. Is it okay if I leave questions till the end? I was just on a roll. Okay. So just, I'm going to get into some examples, but I do want it, like the starting point is, who is your audience? So who is your key customer? And I mean like the key customer, the head pin customer, because you've got to be really, really focused on meeting that. You can always expand and you can find new customer segments, but if you're not going after your key customer and getting to really in their shoes and understand what their pain points are, you don't know what they want, and then what data is it that's interesting and that you're going to collect so that you can innovate on top. And so, as I mentioned before, there's a couple different ways. There's something called, I think, usersurvey.com, but you can also, there's much more expensive enterprise level survey mechanisms. I'm a huge fan of field studies and doing rapid iteration and prototyping, especially in our space, like getting into the owner with their vacation rental and sitting with them as they're like going through and looking at emails and booking requests that are coming in. There's nothing like it, getting travelers to actually book. We even did an extensive research field study where we had bookings happen and then stays, and we followed them all along the way. And what I just want to say about this, I think that's the bulk of it. So these are some inputs in addition to your digital data, and are fairly important. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into an actual example. So we do commercials. And commercials are fairly involved. They take months and months and months, all the way from sketch, and there's a fairly decent investment that's involved. And we try and test and learn along the way, and we're getting better at that. Since we've done this commercial, we've actually augmented a couple more test and learn steps. But with this commercial, we completed it, we were congratulating ourselves, and we put it out there, and then we put it on YouTube, and we got YouTube stats back. And YouTube stats showed that there was a point in the commercial in which there was a disengagement by the user. And that means they're not getting to the tagline, which means then they're not coming to our site and booking. And so that's a very important issue, and it was a really interesting finding. And so we were trying to figure out, like, we figured out the when, we didn't know why. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the commercial. Bear with me. It's only, I think, 60 seconds. And I want you guys to try and see, where in the commercial do you think the viewer would disengage, and then we'll reveal. You haven't seen the sun in like forever, so sunny beaches, sandy beaches, big beaches, small beaches, until you're lost searching for certain dogs. But then you find Vrbo, and they search millions of homes to find you the perfect beach house. All fund your own room and a grill bigger than your kitchen back home. And finding out about the girl you like in school warms your heart even more than the sun. From beach houses to cabins to condos, find vacation homes that match you with Vrbo. Okay, anyone have any idea when the dog showed up? It's a good guess. Oh, interesting. Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. You can't guess. You know the answer. See how hard, like, you guys all had different answers and none of them were the right answer. Bigger, no. So I'm going to show you. But you can imagine we're all sitting around, and first of all, we didn't even know. And then we got some really interesting insights on YouTube. And then we're just like scratching our heads. And then we have to figure out, well, what do we do about it? This is the YouTube. So you can see it dips at 18 seconds, and that's when the pacing sort of slows. And it kind of does a little bit of recovery, but the green line is us, and the other line is just regular video discovery plus, or organic is the blue line that goes straight across. So it's like an organic non-paid video. And so you can see we did really well, and then it just like, I don't know what happened, but you got it. Ideally you're getting them to the end so that you get to the call to action. And so what we did is we applied neuroscience methods. We have a neuroscience professor who's in our research team, and he wires everybody up so that he can measure their facial expressions, which then is an indication of their emotion. And so this is the scene that made people go, ugh. And our testing, our biometric testing actually showed that they were reacting to it. So you can see just below that, it doesn't have there's going to be, you have your gaze coherence like starts to drop, and smiling has kind of started to waver. And then attention kind of spikes, and then it just kind of checks out. And so we kind of identified that it was and plus then you can see we're doing eye tracking. And so everybody's very fixated on this boy's head that's about to hit the water. And so we locate the scene that we think is kind of causing the drop off. We identify, so someone thought this scene was the scene. We identify the scene. And one thing you have to remember, a lot of our demographic are women who do the booking and the shopping. But we identify that this scene had really high engagement and high eye tracking and emotion. And so we cut up the commercial and we reshot it. And I think we're going to show that to you now. And you can see right here how we're tracking along. The original version is in blue. That's why I don't know what's going on there. Here's the new version. This is also a shorter. You can see the orange is the new cut. So you can see there's like this range of, he calls it aw cute and smiling. And so with the new cut commercial, we saw that it performed in the lab a lot better. And then when we then reran it on YouTube, it actually blew everything out of the water. So we were pretty happy about that. But you can see we were trying to understand like why was it failing, and being able to quickly just do some test with some users actually probably saved us a lot of time and money, and prevented us from maybe even scrapping the commercial altogether. So another example of platform has to do with something that we call virtual experience. But at Expedia Group, we're actually doing what I call platform Big P, in that we are investing in building out our own chat platform across Expedia, because we'll have the data and the signals across all the Expedia brands. And we think for the user experience, it's really, really super important that we're close to the data, like what they're entering in, how long it takes them, and it needs to be really close to the interaction. And this isn't just for our travelers and for the hotel they booked or the vacation rental they booked, but with the vacation rental, it's the owner interaction as well that we connect them to and then can track, so we can get kind of a 360 multi-channel view. And then also if they go to our customer service agents, it picks up from there. So we can have a much more customer friendly experience, and also just better for our agents because they're actually much more informed because they can see that. So that was a very specific platform decision that we made that was kind of what I call Big P platform across Expedia Group, which is around the virtual assistant. And then another tactic just to talk about is what we call design-led thinking. So in one of the tactics that you want to take to try and figure out where do you want to innovate, where are your customer pain points, and what are the opportunities, what are the capabilities that you can build to address them. We do something called design-led thinking, and this is a real example where we had basically design-led thinking workshop that was massive. I think there were 200 people there. It was a little big, but it still kind of worked. And we got really deep into one of our customer segments around family and groups, and what was at the core of what they were most stressed out about, and it was actually the group decision. And just the managing of the group decision was very stressful. So the person who was on the hook with booking it was on the hook with like trying to coordinate the email threads and who liked what and where and which one, and does it have a pool, and the kids, and like who's going to sleep with whom, and all this stuff. And so we actually went and started tackling this problem and built this product called Trip Boards. You can go and use it now, and it has comments on it. And the beauty of the comments is we can see exactly what they're talking about as they look at the properties, which then we can build in that full loop and give owners an indication of what are the travelers who are shopping finding problematic about this property. So again, we're thinking of this all the way end to end. I'm so jealous of the product manager working on this product. I think it's really super cool. And then the next cycle that we're doing, so we did the design-led thinking course, created our, the listening. Research was done ahead of time, did the brainstorming, built some prototypes, took them back into the lab, found out that some of the stuff just was confusing, didn't work, went back, we iterated, and then we have out, which is our first effort, and we're working on more, but this is the cycle that we're using. And because we're global, we realized some of the things that we did worked really well in the US, but not very well in Germany, for example. And the great thing is this is a globally universal painful experience, which is booking group travel. And so this is something I'm really excited about, called Trip Boards. And this is an example of one of our prototypes in a lab. So one of the important pieces always on data and signals is you bring a lot of unconscious biases. And one of the things that we're really we try to be really disciplined about and have peer reviews and really challenge each other if we're biased or not. This is a funny little video clip of looking at Trip Boards, and he's not our target demographic, but we brought him in because he is a potential user, and we were super curious about what he would think about a feature within Trip Boards that we were creating. We're asking him a question. Oh, we left off the really funny part. Yep. Okay. So there's a really funny part where we show him another capability. I think because it's still in development. There's another capability, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I would totally do that. I would be in there right away because it's so when you're going on a group trip, the first thing you want to know is like which bedroom are you going to get? So you're racing to get there first to grab the bedroom." And we were just like, "Wow, this is so awesome." Not even in our demographic. Clearly, he thinks that which is good. I mean, he validated that we were building for our demographic, I suppose. But yet we see that we could build other capabilities for our target demographic that he could also get really excited about. And that just made it pop in terms of how we would invest and prioritize. So that was pretty funny. Okay, so we're almost done. Bringing this all back, anyone can do this, and actually you should be doing it. So these are basic principles. Hopefully it wasn't too elementary. I was trying to really be practical about the ways in which we apply it. And it's not so much the details that I talked about, it's the mindset that we were taking when we were doing it, and how we structure the product innovation around that. It's not perfect. There's still a bunch of legacy that we're like going through, but we're doing it with the intention of unlocking value in ways that we haven't even anticipated, because we're able to get that clear signal. Because planning vacation rental travel is really messy. Like it just is one of those messy things. So this is something though that we did where we were using a third party. We actually used a third party that not only did the content capture, but it also ran the consumer, the traveler experience. When they were looking at a property, they could see a virtual tour on some of the properties, but what they were seeing it through was a third party technology. We couldn't do anything about the actual experience itself. And we realized that virtual tours are just going to be everywhere. Like when you're booking large, homes or even small homes, and you have multiple people staying there, you really want to understand, is it safe? What's the layout? Can ground